Good morning. As many of you know, my sister Elizabeth and I grew up on this campus. We've lived here for our whole lives, and we've been lucky enough to have 6 of our cousins in the same town. The 8 of us have always been a tight-knit group, but Elizabeth, Kaylee, Casey, and I have always particularly enjoyed our time together, and I'm lucky enough to call them 3 of my best friends. I'd like to share a quick video with you from when Kaylee and I were 3-ish and Casey was 2. It doesn't have a whole lot to do with my speech, but Kaylee really wanted me to show it.
Gotta go. She just had gold medal sticker. The one who's gonna be the winner who gets this sticker.
Oh. Kate Packard.
Packard.
Did you guys make that picture together?
Yep. Yeah. This one.
Oh wow, it's spectacular.
I did all this. I did this, and Kate did this and this, and I did. You know what I really want? I want this one on my picture. Yeah, cause I'm Kate. Why don't you make it all better for me too? I used kind of a Tinkerbell. I used kind of.
What's going on, Case?
Then you had to put it on.
Casey, what's going on?
You had to put first you had to take one and put one of these stickers on here. Okay? Go ahead and make one. What? I'm just making myself. Casey, don't do what we're doing right now. We're a little busy. Yeah. Because I made a gold medal for Kate. I made a dog.
A dog?
No, a dog.
A star?
Yeah.
Say
I don't need this.
star. Casey, you want your own paper?
Hey, get some more picture.
No, those cakes. Here's yours.
Dad.
Just a little. Kaylee, what are you sitting on?
I'm sitting on here.
That's probably not a good idea.
But Daddy, I can't reach. That's all the thing I can do. Silly goose. Can I sit in here?
Who's that?
Sure.
Where's my friend Casey? Hi, Casey.
Hi, Dad.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna take it.
Oh, that looks beautiful.
I'm gonna make a gold medal. Okay, there's red gold medals.
Who got you those gold stars?
What?
Who got you those gold star stickers?
Grandpa.
Grandpa.
I don't want this one. You want a different one? I'm having 2 gold ones because I really win. So I'm gonna get all of them.
What, honey?
Hey, there's no.
In addition to being my cousin, Kaylee is one of my oldest and closest friends. We're only 6 weeks apart in age, but since I was born in late August and she was born in early October, the school cutoff fell in between our birthdays, so we've always been in separate grades. When Kaylee was a rising 6th grader and I was a rising 7th grader, she made the decision to transfer to my school, Pike. I couldn't contain my excitement. While I knew that we wouldn't be in any of the same classes, I was looking forward to having her at my school, after she'd been in school with our cousin Alex from kindergarten through 5th grade, which I'd always been jealous of. I didn't realize it at the time, but having Kaylee at Pike was going to be the beginning of her helping me with something, without even trying, that I continue to struggle with. It was recess during Kaylee's first year at Pike, and someone came up to me. "Kate, your cousin's crying. Do you know?" But I didn't even let them finish their sentence before I asked, "Where is she?" And when they just looked at me with a puzzled expression, I asked again, "Where is she?" And they pointed to the bench by the corner of the soccer field. I said thanks and then began speed walking, then jogging over to my cousin. She told me what was going on with some kids at school, which I'm not going to go into detail about because that's her story to tell. But when the bell rang and we had to go inside, I was so happy that she had opened up to me. She was, and still is, one of the bravest and most resilient people I know. I've never been good at opening up to people. In fact, I have a history of being pretty bad at it. It has always been a challenge for me to initiate a conversation centering around my own vulnerability. I thought that if people got to know me too well, then they wouldn't like me as much. So I just kept everything to myself. Although I doubt she realizes it, Kaylee has given me the tools to work at this. Not only has she set a good example, she has also given me someone to open up to, her. Throughout my freshman year, I had continued to develop the unhealthy tendency of not asking my friends for help and automatically answering yes when they asked if I was okay. Overall, I was great. I loved my freshman year. But when I was going through a rough patch, I made the wrong choice. I chose to hold it in. I didn't want to inconvenience my friends or have them pity me or talk about me behind my back. I was so convinced that they'd judge me or not like me that I was blind to the fact that I had developed real friendships. I had found people that I could trust, who wanted me to trust them and lean on them when I needed to. But I didn't let myself see that. I was holding everything in. And through doing this, I was beginning to push people away. And since we were all still somewhat new friends, there was no one there to tell me that I was being an idiot and to just trust my friends. Until Kaylee showed up. A few months into school, Kaylee was sleeping over at my house. We were in my room in bed with the lights off and chatting. It was our version of trying to fall asleep. Kaylee was ranting to me about something, and then she paused and said plainly, "What's new with you?" And I shrugged. "Nothing," I replied. "Come on, there has to be something." And that was my chance. I just started talking about life, the good and the not so good. It felt great. Eventually, we got tired, and before we went to sleep, I said to Kaylee, "Thanks, I think I needed that." And I doubt she even remembers saying this, but it stuck with me. She laughed and said, "No problem. Kate, people like it when you open up to them, just so you know." And with that, she yawned and fell asleep. But I didn't. I lay there thinking about what she said. She had a point. It has actually been scientifically proven that asking for help makes people like you more. But why did I struggle with it so much? Maybe it's the introvert in me, or perhaps it's just my awkwardness that I'll probably never overcome. But I decided right then and there that I was going to work on this. It's something that I continue to struggle with, but I've definitely gotten better at asking for help and telling people when I'm having a rough time. On the first day of freshman year, I fell down the stairs. Twice. The second time it happened, a nice senior boy offered to help me up. I, being the awkward and terrified freshman I was, got up myself, not accepting his help, and instead chose to ramble on for a solid 15 seconds about how my shoes were new and slippery, and that's why I fell. I'd like to say that I avoided this boy for the rest of the year, but honestly, he was probably avoiding me. At the end of my sophomore year, I was stuck. I couldn't seem to overcome the social anxiety that had only worsened since I started at Brooks. One of the ways it manifested itself was when I'd be walking down Main Street, see someone, and desperately want to say hi, to look them in the eye, smile, and say hi. So I'd mentally prepare myself to say hi to them. It was like this little voice in my head was saying, "Okay, Kate, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this." But as they got closer, it would switch to, "No, you can't, no, you can't, no, you can't." And I'd look the other way. And then as I walked past them, I'd beat myself up for not saying hi, and then miss saying hi to the next person I saw, and the cycle would repeat. Casey started at Brooks my junior year. which was the year that I was determined to be more outgoing and stop letting my anxiety make choices for me. It seemed as though she made friends immediately, although I'm sure she'd tell you otherwise. Casey isn't hard to like. She's very caring, funny, and outgoing. And one of the things that I admire most about Casey is her ability to laugh at herself. If Casey fell down the stairs on her first day of Brooks, she'd get up laughing and skip the ramble about her slippery shoes. I, unfortunately, had not yet developed this quality. Earlier this year, Kaylee, Casey, and I were in the rink watching a hockey game. I was talking about how my speech was going to include parts about Kaylee, Casey, and Elizabeth, and how I'm definitely the most awkward out of the four of us. Casey grinned and suggested that I add this line to my speech. I'm definitely the most awkward out of the four of us, and it's pretty hard to beat Casey. The three of us burst out laughing and continued to laugh for a few minutes. Later that day, I was looking back on our conversation, and how Casey had laughed at herself, and I realized how much I laugh when I'm with Casey. And how much of that laughter is about her. But I'm never laughing at Casey. I'm laughing with Casey. She's able to admit when she messes up or does something wrong and laugh about it. She doesn't beat herself up about it. I thought about how freeing this must be, and how the best way through an awkward situation is to laugh at yourself, rather than thinking, oh my God, Kate, what did you just do? Now you're really not going to have any friends, as had become my personal custom. So I started trying to laugh at myself more. It felt amazing, and I didn't lose any friends. Elizabeth is, and has always been, more confident and outgoing than I am. But before I say anything else, I'd like to share this video with you. A little context. When I was 9 and Elizabeth was 7, our family took a trip to Asia. The main purpose was for our dad's work, but my mom, Elizabeth, and I tagged along. This video is from when we were in Beijing, and had just bought some Chinese pajamas from a market that a Brooks graduate had taken us to earlier that day.
Hello.
Not ready.
You're not ready?
I'm getting my bow done. Me too.
We're in our room at the St. Regis Hotel.
Yo, what can my name is? Yo, I'm in my silk pajamas. Yo.
You're in your silk pajamas. Yeah, Kate and Elizabeth have new fancy Chinese robes and Chinese pajamas.
Don't look at me.
Here, go stand over there near the vase thingy. Why?
She's not finished.
Daddy's
Here
watching
is the
sports.
Chinese things. Ooh.
Yeah.
She's posing for the camera.
Okay. All right, Elizabeth. What's up? Okay. You can go into your room. Yeah. All right. How about go in your room for a second? Okay. You're doing your kung fu moves.
This is the rope.
Yes. Can you turn the volume down? John, just mute it. John.
You realize that's gonna be on.
Oh yeah, look at those Chinese pajamas. Elizabeth's really. I keep backing up, Elizabeth.
Who's
so I can get- Yeah.
Hey, Lily. I'm gonna pose it.
Okay, Elizabeth, we're gonna have this recorded for the rest of your life. Yeah.
I'm doing a dance now. You realize that our friends at home our friends at home are
Maybe.
Yeah, including my friends. No, they're not.
Only if you
Mommy,
send
I
them
don't
the
think
video.
I'm gonna see it.
Only if you send it to them.
I'm gonna send it to them. No, she's not.
She won't.
That was on video too.
Oh, okay. I guess it's time for bed because we're gonna tomorrow.
Hello.
We are going to be climbing the Great
The
Wall,
Great Wall of China. No, I need you to pose from China.
and we're going to the Forbidden City. Forbidden City.
No, I'm gonna do
Right?
a good job like China. Bunny ears.
Okay,
It's a
and that's a good one to end on.
And goodbye. Goodbye, you see. Yo.
As you can see, Elizabeth has no problem putting herself out there. I was, and am, more awkward than she is. For example, in the video, I tried to be funny, saying how I'd show it to our friends back home. But instead, I was accidentally mean. That, unfortunately, has happened to me more than once in my socially awkward existence. So, if I've ever been mean to you, I'm sorry. And I promise, I didn't mean it. Luckily, as you saw, Elizabeth moved on pretty quickly. And I did get her permission to show the video to all of you. When we were younger, at events where the adult running it would ask the crowd of kids to volunteer, Elizabeth's hand would shoot up, while I would shrink down and attempt not to be seen or called on, even though deep down, I wanted to be one of those kids whose hands shot up. When we met someone new, Elizabeth would strike up a conversation with them, while I would sit quietly, wishing I was more like her, and only speaking when I was directly spoken to. This was a bad habit that I developed when I was little, and it wasn't until my time at Brooks that I've really started working on it. My freshman year, I was shy when I met new people. I didn't talk much, and I didn't smile much because I was too focused on worrying what people were going to think of me, so I didn't give them the chance to actually get to know me. I was so worried that they wouldn't like me if I did. I was pushing people away, but I didn't realize that. My anxiety was causing me to do the opposite of what I thought I was doing. I thought I was trying to meet new people. But whenever anyone new approached me, I'd panic and shut down. I did end up making friends, but I was still struggling to put myself out there. I didn't offer my opinion when it conflicted with someone else's or do anything that I thought might make people not like me. Gradually, I began to open up more, but I was still tentative in doing so. I had never really thought about what would change if I was more outwardly friendly. After Elizabeth had her Brooks revisit day, she was telling me about her day, and I had an epiphany. I thought I was being friendly, but I wasn't. Elizabeth was more outgoing on her revisit day than I had been on any single day of my Brooks career. And then I asked myself why this was. Why was my sister, who was 3 years younger than me, more comfortable being friendly at my school than I was? I couldn't come up with a good explanation. So I decided that this was going to change. It gave me the courage to do what I've always wanted to do. I overcame my fear and started doing things like saying hi to people as I walked down Main Street, or sitting down next to someone in the science forum and starting up a conversation. By the end of my junior year, I was 10 times more outgoing than I was at the beginning of it, and I owe this change to Elizabeth. This year, I was determined to show my sister that I'm not quite as weird as I think she thought I was. When I met new people this year, I put myself out there, more than I have at any other time in my life. And I'm so grateful because I've met so many amazing people and developed friendships that I think I'll have for the rest of my life. I'm still not as outgoing as Elizabeth, but I'm glad that I was able to learn this from her before I go off to college next year. This year has definitely been my happiest since I've been at Brooks, and I owe a lot of that to Kaylee, Casey, and Elizabeth. And I'm going to miss them more than they could possibly know next year. But whether it's that I'm not holding stuff in because of Kaylee, that I'm laughing more because of Casey, or that I'm putting myself out there more because of Elizabeth, this has definitely been my best year yet. To those of you who I haven't gotten a chance to get to know, please know I want to. I'm socially awkward. I can send off the wrong vibe, and I can say the wrong thing at the wrong time. But I really love getting to know people. Most of you won't be lucky enough to have 2 cousins and a sister at Brooks with you. And you're probably fortunate enough to not need it as much as I did. But even so, You don't need a Kaylee, a Casey, and an Elizabeth to get the most out of your Brooks experience. But perhaps there's something you can take away from mine. Open up to people, especially when things are bad or you feel alone. Because people relate to you more when you advertise your flaws and insecurities. It makes you more human. Laugh at yourself, and people will laugh with you. And put yourself out there. Because being nice to others is really a gift to yourself. Thank you.